How about tomorrow?
It's the same story week after week, this never ending cycle of always trying to get something off the ground. Another habit, more discipline. You know exactly what I mean because you've seen it play out over a dozen times. The gym, your eating, your career, your relationship, and you have this vision of exactly who you want to be, exactly what you want to do, but it always seems to slip through your fingertips. Let's talk about why. Now, when it comes to being consistent, I've got 4 things I want to share with you today. Not a lot of people are talking about this stuff, so I know it's going to make you think. But there's one thing that I want you to remember throughout this entire video. I want you to start developing the mindset to endure and outlast. What I mean by that. When it comes to achieving a goal, conquering something that you didn't think that you could do, being consistent, it doesn't take all this magic skill or all this knowledge. A lot of times, all you have to do is just outlast others. You just have to show up more than other people. You see this all the time in business. People that didn't get an Ivy League education or they didn't get experience by working at a top business. They learned to be scrappy. They learned to just show up. And through time, through experience, they started developing some skills. They started developing some street smarts. And 10, 15 years down the road, these are the same people that you see with $1 million businesses. When their competitors were fed with a silver spoon and they had things handed to them, these people eventually fell off. But the person who taught themselves to show up, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of how you feel, those are the people that win. Keep that in mind. Let's jump in. First reason why you're not consistent. Your identity equals your results. If you want to be fit, but you constantly see yourself as the fat guy or the skinny guy, and you don't actually see the image in your mind of yourself with a built, muscular physique, it's not going to happen. You're going to act like the fat guy and you're going to talk yourself out of reasons why you need to stick with your diet. You're going to talk yourself into reasons why you deserve a cheat meal. Or if you're the skinny guy, every single time you go to the gym and you have heavy squats on deck, you're going to talk yourself out of reasons why you don't need to do them. I'm a little bit sore today. I'm a little bit tired. You're always going to try to talk yourself out of reasons because you have ingrained that identity within your brain. Another part of this that's way too common is when you set a number on the scale and you're either fat or you're skinny until you hit that number. People can be 5 pounds away from this number, but they still see themselves as fat or skinny. And then once they fluctuate off that number, they're back to being fat again or they're back to being skinny again. It's crazy because you become so attached to this identity that you're going to spend your entire life in pursuit of not being fat or not being skinny. When you actually start to think of yourself as the person that you want to be before you're actually there, that's when you start to make moves. You start to raise your awareness and your thought process because you start to differentiate when you're thinking like the old version of you and when you're thinking like this new person that you're becoming. You see, you're already on the right track because you're watching this video and you're trying to make a change. You're trying to find that thing that actually sticks so you can just cut out the BS. You're taking the steps now to figure this all out. Most people don't even have the consciousness to realize that they're actually stuck, to realize that they're not consistent. They blame it on an external circumstance or for some other reason. In fact, there's this stat that says that 80% of people, they don't even set goals. 20%, like you and I, actually want to change. We're actually setting goals to be better. But what's tough to hear is out of that 20% of people that set goals, only 30% of those people actually achieve the goal. So you can see that it's pretty rare to be consistent, but it's because people are so wrapped up in an identity, they don't even realize it. Now we can shift the focus of becoming the person that you want to become before you even achieve it. You're going to start making better decisions. Keeping the fitness example, you start to see yourself as a fit person already. You start to make fit decisions. You start to work out regularly. You start to think about what you eat. Yeah, you're not going to see results in the short term, but that's for everything you do. Remember, you got to keep showing up. You got to outlast. Now, maybe right now you are the fat guy, or maybe you're the skinny guy. But you got to look around and say, man, I'm the fittest mother I know. I'm not going to skip the chicken for the pizza and ice cream, and I'm going to hit my heavy set of squats because that's what I do. If you continue to believe the identity you've always had, you will always act accordingly, and the results will follow that belief. Build an identity around who you want to become. I want to be strong, built, fit. I want to have a successful business. I want to be a leader. What does that entail? Focus, consistency, delaying gratification. Break it down, reverse engineer it, become it. The second reason why you're inconsistent is because you overthink and overcalculate. You're motivated, stuff is going well, you're setting some goals for yourself. Now, you want some inspiration, so you start to look at what other people are doing in an effort to get some ideas. You want to see concrete success from other people so you can replicate it. You decide you need to create this calculated plan, step by step, with an answer for every obstacle before it even happens. But what you end up doing is you start to waste time and you start to go down this rabbit hole. You start to overcalculate things. Then a few minutes go by and now you're overwhelmed. You start to remember why you even started researching in the first place. You start to remember your goals, and now you're pissed because you wasted so much time. Now you start searching, well, how do I stay focused? It's just this never ending cycle. It's not a focus problem. You're giving yourself too many options. Your ability to focus can be just fine if you create the environment to actually focus. Now, this happens way too often, and so many people look for better ways to achieve something rather than just using the proven methods that already work. We sometimes think that we can outsmart the system by creating a hack, and it's usually the scenario where we don't even have enough knowledge on the subject matter to create a hack anyway. There's a saying in fitness that goes, if you want the program that's going to give you the best results in the quickest amount of time, it's the program that you follow consistently. It's not the one with these brand new, unique exercises. It's the same stuff that it's always been. Lift weights, increase your daily activity level, and eat nutrient dense foods. If you want the focus that's required to be consistent, just reduce the amount of options that you give yourself so you don't get distracted. Pick one thing and stick to it for 10 weeks. Review your results, get some data, get some experience, and then tweak it if you need to. It might be working perfectly, but you never know until you actually stay with it for an extended period of time. When you set way too many goals or you try to create this intensely calculated routine, it's pretty likely that you'll get overwhelmed, especially when one thing goes wrong. Just do a little research on what you're trying to do, develop this general frame of knowledge, and just start to implement. Just start to take action. And I promise you, you'll get the feedback if you're doing something wrong or you're doing something right. Every day, just a few steps. It's probably going to be ugly. And over time, you'll naturally find your flow, but you've got to take action first. Now, the third reason why you're not consistent is because you have no accountability. When you're in pursuit of anything that takes actual effort, you're going to lose motivation. Everyone does, and it's normal. What you do with that is what separates you. Check this out. If you give yourself 100 days to do something, that's a decent amount of time. Just look back to your last 100 days. Hell, even look back to your last 7 days. Did you want to do the hard work every single day? Did you feel unmotivated and probably talk yourself out of something that you shouldn't have? And then did you reason it out? I'll tell you right now, I go through that every single day. A lot of times, I don't want to do the stuff that I know needs to be done, but it's the thought of quitting that's going to bother me for the rest of the day. Let me tell you why. You got to think of the big picture, but more specifically, you have to think of the implications of your short-term decisions and being accountable to those decisions. If you decide you're too tired to work on your business today, it's probably not going to hurt you today or even tomorrow. But when you make that decision to talk yourself out of doing something today, it gets much easier to continue to do that every day from there on. Anytime you reach any adversity, you get a little bit weaker and you give in a little bit easier. I'm telling you that because I know it happens because I've done it. You get comfortable making that decision to avoid doing what you need to do. You don't put in the extra hours of what you really need to be doing. Your future self suffers. You stay in the same job you hate a little bit longer. Your bank account stays check to check a little bit longer. And your family has to get what's left of you after you spend all day at this job that you hate. All of these factors that trickle down, they're a result of talking yourself out of what you need to do. Without accountability, you will become soft. You'll be easy on yourself. Remember who you're trying to become, but remember why. Now, the fourth reason you're not consistent is because you take no ownership. I'm going to leave you with this one. If you want to become a better version of yourself, if you want to become more consistent, you cannot become that person until you come to terms with who you are right now. Open it up. Ask yourself some of the toughest questions. What is actually stopping you from becoming that better version of yourself? Do you quit when it gets tough? Do you feel sorry for yourself when you have to wake up early? Do you complain when something goes wrong? Every single person that has improved themselves in some way has had some of these negative tendencies. They had to take ownership of them. They had to correct them. I'll give you a personal story of mine, and it goes back to that video that I made a while back about hustle culture. I mentioned that I'm addicted to hustle culture. I like the feeling of going and going because it's that feeling of being busy that makes me feel productive sometimes. But that does not work in all aspects of life. I've ran myself into the ground way too many times because I wasn't smart enough to say no when I needed to say no. When I tried to do way too much, it resulted in failures in other areas. And a lot of those things didn't even serve me or my goals. Eventually, I had to take ownership and realize that being busy does not equate to success. Consistent production is what brings success. Day after day, showing up, outlasting others, making intentional steps towards what I'm trying to accomplish, that's what's important. If you ask yourself some of the right questions, don't be surprised if you feel some disappointment. It's normal to feel a little bit cringy about some of the things that you have to come to terms with. You might even ask yourself, how in the hell did I allow myself to get here? But that should be enough motivation to stop acting like that. Become a strong human being. Become a leader. If you want real long-term success, you got to earn it. You have to show up day after day, do the boring and mundane work to become that person. You got to ask yourself, how many times are you going to sit in the same situation, do the same things, get the same poor results? Consistency is a muscle that you have to flex on a daily basis. It's not always going to be smooth, but it is very binary. You either become consistent or you don't. Show up for 1 week, do exactly what you say you're going to do, and come back to this video, leave a comment, and motivate the guy that's trying to do the exact same thing.